I became sick and tired of playing the same meta decks over and over again. So I set myself the perfect challenge. I tried to win a battle without doing any damage. And you may be wondering how this could be possible. For that we look at one of the most unique cards in the game, Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl's move Primal Wing Beat does not do any damage, but it can shuffle the opponent's active Pokemon back into the deck. This means that in theory, Aerodactyl can beat any opponent by putting all active and bench Pokemon back into its deck. This is the perfect troll deck to make your opponent rage, and you might be curious how this went. So the deck I've created for this is called Primal Trolling. A very fitting name in my opinion, but feel free to suggest better names in the comments. This deck consists of 6 Pokemon. Of course we have 2 copies of the Old Amber and Aerodactyl. They are the core of our deck and the only way to win without doing damage. Next we have 1 copy of the Drowsy Hypno line. Hypno has a unique ability that allows it to put the opponent's active Pokemon to sleep from the bench. This gives me more chance to attack with Aerodactyl by preventing it from getting attacked. I then added 1 Chansey and 1 Snorlax to give me time to set up Aerodactyl. I could have added another of the Drowsy Hypno line, but sadly I don't have 2 Hypnos. Next we take a look at the trainers and items that I've used. I added 2 Professors and Pokeballs of course, to ensure I get all the cards I need ASAP. I then added 2 red cards and hand scopes, just for a little extra trolling in this deck. And lastly I also added 2 X-Speeds in case I need to switch active Pokemon. Overall, this deck is not perfect, but this was the first deck I created to test out this concept. And let me show you how this went. So these battles were done in the event format, because I thought when losing, why not give out free wins to other people that really need it. But let's get straight into the action of game 1, where I'll be going first, and I'm playing against an Articuno EX deck. So I start with a Snorlax and an All Amber and a Drowsy, and also have a red card, so why not use it? But the opponent starts Misty. But luckily they get a Tails, they're not lucky at all, so this is a good start for me. But I do have a Lapras EX as well. But I get my Aerodactyl, but they get, in the end, too a lot of energy, but they knock out my Snorlax, but this gives me the chance to use Aerodactyl and get my first, well, not knockouts, but you know what I mean. So let's see what happens. So I get my Hypno as well, so I immediately evolve it and try to put Articuno to sleep, which I manage. So Articuno's asleep and I try to go for a Primal Wing Beat. Sadly though I get a Tails, but Articuno stays asleep, so I have another chance in the next turn. So I try again. Tails again. But they stay asleep, so I have another try to go for it. So I try again. And again Tails. So again, my luck is also not the best, but Articuno wakes up, they can hit me with Blizzard, knocking me down to very low HP. But I get another try. And I finally get a Heads. So Articuno is out. But I need 3 more knockouts in order to win the game, unless they have even more to put on the bench. So they put in Starmie, and Starmie is able to knock out my Aerodactyl. But luckily I have an Old Amber waiting there, and I got another Aerodactyl, but I get Tails again. But I get another try, and now I finally get another Heads. However, this game is at the end because they have so much on the bench, and they all have all the energy they need, so I have lost the first game. Well, let's go into game 2. So I've learned from the first one quite a bit. So in game 2 I have a good start with Hypno and Aerodactyl ready to go against the Gardevoir and Hypno on their side. So I try to go for Primal Wing Beat and I manage to knock out their Gardevoir. So this means they only have 1 Mon left, which is Hypno. So if they don't have anything else... okay, never mind, they have a Mewtwo. So I have to knock out 2 still. And I get a Tails. And their Hypno puts me to sleep. So this is not going too well. However, now it turns out a little bit into a back and forth sleep Hypno battle, because my Hypno puts their Hypno to sleep. And my one is asleep, and I stay asleep, but they stay asleep, and I stay asleep, and they stay asleep. But I finally get another Primal Wing Beat off, but I get another Tails. It's not my most lucky game, this one. And I concede because they have a Mewtwo up and running, and they don't have any chances anymore afterwards. But then we go into game 3. Game 3 is interesting. They are playing an Execute and Venusaur deck. But I start off well, have a Hypno there, and put the Execute to sleep. And I have an Aerodactyl waiting for the next turn, which I then immediately use. I put the Execute again back to sleep in case I miss, but I hit Primal Wing Beat. So Execute goes back in the deck and they put Ivysaur there. So Ivysaur is able to damage my Aerodactyl, but I get off another Primal Wing next turn and I get a Heads, meaning Ivysaur goes back in the deck as well. So now they are left with 1 Mon. If they don't put anything down, which they don't, they attack, so I have 1 chance now to win this game with an Aerodactyl deck in game 3 already. So let's see how it goes. I use Primal Wing Beat. I flip my coin and I get a Heads. So actually in game 3 already you managed to win this, which I'm super surprised about. I expect it to be way more difficult, way more challenges on the way, because I'm not able to do damage. I can only hope that they don't have a big bench, or a backup Pokemon, or a basic Pokemon in their deck. But no, I managed in game 3 to already win with this Aerodactyl deck. But this was a bit underwhelming, so maybe I was lucky. So I tried to do another game and see how that went. And this game started off bad with 1 Tails, but then afterwards I got heads. So Harper goes back in the deck, got another heads, Ekans goes back in the deck, another heads, Pidgey goes back in the deck, and another heads for Pidgeot goes back in the deck as well. So I had a perfect game again. So I won twice out of 4 times with this deck, which I'm incredibly surprised about and did not expect to happen. But this was also strange to me because I expected this to be difficult, I wanted to make a nice video out of it, make content out of it. But I did it, so I had to rethink my strategy. I dropped the Aerodactyl idea, and I came up with an amazing new idea. I decided to try to win without attacking at all. This means I can't use Aerodactyl, I can't use any kind of attacking moves that don't do damage. I can only rely on abilities, and for that we look at 3 cards. Greninja, with this ability, Water Shuriken, able to do 20 damage to anyone. Weezing with its ability to poison and do 20 damage as well, over turns. And lastly, Poliwrath, who can also do damage by being attacked. So these are the 3 main cards I want to focus on. So this deck I've created out on these cards is called Pacifist Challenge. For this deck, we look at 7 Pokemon cards. I have 2 of the Coughing Weezing line. Coughing Weezing is the most important card of this deck because it has high HP. It also has the ability to poison for continuous damage, which is not relying on anything. I have 2 in this deck as well because, as I mentioned, it's a good damage punch. It's great to have in the active Pokemon slot and then rely on Greninja, who I also have 1 line of in this deck, to do some additional damage from the bench. I then also have 1 copy of the Drowsy Hypno line. Again, as I mentioned, I only have 1 Hypno sadly, but they are able to put the active Pokemon of the opponent to sleep, giving me loads more chances to attack. For the trainer section, it's a bit standard to compare to what I had before. 2 Oaks to get a lot of parts in, 2 Pokeballs to get all my basic Pokemon, 2 Potions for survivability, but then I have 2 Kogas as well, and these 2 Kogas are great to have. It gives me extra survivability, it gives me extra ways to maneuver my Pokemon around. I also have Sabrina in case I need to move theirs around, and 2 XPs. But let's see how this game went. So we go into game 1, and I'm playing against an Articuno deck again. So similar to the last idea that I had, again Articuno comes back, and I have a great start. I have a Weezing, I have Frogadier already, I have a Drowsy there, I have Greninja in my hand, so this is going well. So I put the poison on Articuno, and maybe you didn't know something, because maybe you're thinking, why am I using a Poison Mon and a Sleep Mon? But did you know you can actually poison and sleep the Mon at the same time? So now we can finally use Greninja, able to do 20 damage on Articuno, putting it back to 100. But this is where my big nemesis comes in, the Potion card. Potions are so annoying when I'm only through 40 damage per turn. To heal up half what I can do per turn is stupid for this idea. So this is the hardest card I had to battle against. But this turned out great. Articuno, I knocked it down to 10 HP, but they knocked out 2 of my Pokemon at the same time. But this was a good start. But game 2 was more difficult. I didn't have the mons that I needed. This was way more tricky than the first game I had. And this one I immediately lost for that sense. But then we go into game 3 where maybe thinking, okay, maybe this goes different, or game 4 for that matter. Where I found another deck I can't play against, which is anything with healing. Being Butterfree, Kabutops, Venusaur, I can't win against healing decks because they will out-heal my attacks. So we go into the next games. And the next games are also tricky because there are certain decks that just out-damage me completely on a whole other level, so I can never win against them. That being Dragonite with its Draco Meteor move, that being Charizard with huge HP as well, being super tricky to knock out. And of course, another Charizard, again, same issue with Arcanine in the back as well. And Pikachu EX. This is also such a tricky deck to play against using this method. I was struggling a lot. I was 17 games in, I could not win anything. But then I finally got some momentum going. You know, in game 18, I managed to knock out my opponent's Beedrill. This was the first knockout I had after 18 games, and that was insane. I was losing my mind, similar to the Lickitung video. But in game 19, I did the same. I also knocked out a Pokemon. I think I was getting used to this deck slowly but surely. I understood what is happening. And then in game 19, I was so close as well to completely winning it. This Wigglytuff was hanging on for dear life. I was poisoning it, damaging it, he was healing it with potions. This took so long, there was a lot of turns involved in this, but this was insane. We bring it down to solo, we make it asleep, it poisoned again, he goes back to the bench, I keep damaging it there, but sadly I cannot win it, because they put me to sleep every time. But then we go into game 20, and this was a frustrating game. You'll see why. So I have a Weezing and a Hypno ready early on, and this is a huge start, and also have Proki. And they are running a Go Lurk deck. So Go Lurk has a chance of doing 0 damage because it relies on coin flips. So I have a good start. I put it to sleep, I poison it, but they use a potion again, which is so annoying. But I get my Greninja as well, and I can start doing max damage of my deck. They luckily only do 1 coin flip or 1 heads, meaning I don't get knocked out. And I keep pressuring, I keep putting damage on, I keep putting so much pressure on this Go Lurk, and he puts it back to the bench and I knock it out. So this is my first point of this game, and I have hope because I still have my full lineup there, I have Koga still waiting, he is missing 2 Darkest Larrys in a row. This is a great game for me. I'm bringing it down to 60 HP, they miss a Tails and stay asleep, so this is perfect for me. They stay asleep again, so now I can finally knock out the second one. But then this happens, they concede the game. And this was so frustrating because technically it's a win, technically I've done it, but it's not satisfying, it's not the content that I wanted for this video. So I decided to, even though I was very happy with this, I had to continue. I had to go again and do better and actually win completely. And that's when we go into game 23. Game 23 is against a deck with Jinx. And if you know about Jinx, Jinx does damage based on the amount of energy on my Pokemon. But as I don't need energy, this was the perfect deck to play against. So I had my Weezing on early, but I didn't have anything else. I didn't have the best start to most of my, compared to other games, this is not the best start. But Weezing put in work. I used Koga to put in a fresh Weezing, and we almost nearly knocked out the first Jinx, and they leave it in, and they let it go down. So this is my first point. I still have a Weezing there, I still have chances, but they put in Alakazam. But similarly, Alakazam also does damage based on the amount of energy I have. I don't use energy. I have my Hypno now, I don't put it to sleep sadly, but they don't do much either, but I finally get my Froakie. And this time I do put it to sleep, so this there's hope. But he has a head, so he comes back alive and he knocks out my Weezing. So here I have to maneuver a lot with my Pokemon cards that I have, because now we are 1 point each. I have to make sure everything stays alive. So I put it to sleep again, luckily. I put in my coughing there, damage punch, and they wake up again, which is super annoying, but it is what it is. But I don't have Giovanni, so they don't knock out my coughing, meaning I get another chance. And I get a Frogadier, so hope is there. I put my Hypno back in to soak up some damage as well. I get a Hez to put it to sleep, which is huge, and they finally don't wake up. So this is looking up, and I get my Weezing as well. So now I put Weezing back in the active spot. I put Greninja in, finally as well. I can do huge damage, I bring it back to 30. And I use Koga as well to remove my Weezing and then put my Greninja back there. And they wake up sadly, however, they stay in. Meaning, they go back to 10 HP, Greninja is there, can't survive another hit, so I put my Weezing up front again. I use Water Shuriken to knock it out because I want some damage on the fresh Alakazam already, because they have another Alakazam waiting with max energy. So that goes back in. And now here's hope, because I poison it, and if I get lucky, and which I'm doing right now, with the sleep, I can win this. But they wake up every time again immediately, which is so annoying. So they Psychic me another 60 damage. I put them to sleep again, which is huge. I do damage with Water Shuriken. This is seeing hopeful. And they finally stay asleep. They stay asleep for 2 turns even, meaning I can do a lot more damage. I'm bringing it down now to 40 HP on their turn, but they wake up. But they switch it out back to the bench and start to rely on Jinx. This is huge for me, because now I can just use Greninja to knock it out on the bench, which I did not expect ever to be able to win this. I thought this challenge would be impossible, but I did it. I knocked out the last Alakazam, got my 3rd point, and actually won without attacking at all, only relying on abilities. And this is something I did not expect to work. I expected this to last for 100 games, but I managed in game 23 to do it. Here you can see proof as well. I used the event format as I mentioned in the beginning. I thank my opponent, of course, because this was amazing. I did not expect to win this. And this is huge, and thank you guys for watching, and please try out this challenge for yourself. It's a lot of fun to do, and of course it's super difficult, but please let me know if you manage. And next week, we're doing another pack battle video, so please like and subscribe to stay tuned, because you don't want to miss that one.